right, well, it's one of the
It was especially when they were starting out in the 90s and 20s. All right, thank you for joining us for another episode of Football Theory with your hosts, Guti and Ivan. Guti, how you doing, my man?
I got my hot tea right here. I'm trying to recover. My throat is still sore from having a good time. A little too much yelling, but yeah, we're good, man. We're here.
Cool. Yeah, so this episode, I think is going to be a little different. We probably won't have a third topic because I think the two topics we have, I think they're going to be a little longer form. We have a lot to talk about pretty much is what I'm saying. So, I mean, we're going to start with, I think the appropriate thing is to start with the Gold Cup final, and then move our way to the Olympics after that. Because the final, we got a lot to unwrap. One, you were at the final. You were there. You were in Las Vegas. You went to Sin City. So I think how was it or how was your trip? Yeah, how was your trip before we even get to the game? You were in Vegas for a couple of days. How was it?
Yeah. I don't know. I had a good time. I think that's one of the things I try to reflect as I was going there. I was like, you know what, like, you get the opportunity to enjoy things like this. So I was like, I got to soak it in as much as I can. I haven't counted on my my hands how many games I've been to. It's probably close to 50, if not more, following El Tri. And so I don't know. I just like, you know what, I like to go to places where I haven't been before. So I try to find excuses, to go to a game. And so, yeah, it was a good time. And we showed up to Vegas. We did our thing. We got there, just hanging out. And the vibe was kind of dead the first night, which was Saturday night. I expected more people, but people started kind of rolling in maybe later on in the night on Saturday. You started seeing them on the strip. You started seeing some flags here and there. And then Sunday morning, we went to Tacos El Gordo, and we couldn't even get in. There was like 2-hour wait. So everybody was, the Mexicans were trying to find the taco spots, and they found them. And that's where you started seeing a little bit of environment there, a little atmosphere. There was a lot of people with their flags, the jerseys, people selling the knockoffs, everything, all the good stuff. And the environment just started picking up. The atmosphere started picking up, and it was cool. I mean, I honestly expected more from the fans. I expected more like of a vibe. I've gotten better vibes going to the Bay Area, going to LA. I think maybe because it's new to Vegas. It's not like you could say there's a huge soccer community. They're not used to games like this, especially not Selección, right? They don't even have, they don't really get games, once in a while. So I don't blame them. So I think everyone coming in was from out of town most of the time. Every time I talk to somebody, they're from out of town. But yeah, it was amazing. The stadium was great. Top, world class. If they're not hosting the World Cup there, I'd be totally shocked. I don't even think they're on the list of host cities, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's get to that stadium because this is a brand new stadium. Raiders played last year in it, but no fans. This is the first time this is probably the biggest event they've hosted. Definitely the biggest event they've hosted.
61,000.
The stadium looks like right off the strip, right next to the MGM, or was it the MGM?
It's across the street from the Mandalay.
Mandalay, there you go.
Across it is. I mean, they're all next to each other, but it's right across the overpass. So there's this nice long overpass where you walk, and walking over was amazing, and walking back was probably the quietest walk I've ever been a part of. It was like a mixed emotions where like I was pissed. I was looking for someone to bait me to say something, but then in my head, it's like, don't say anything, just keep walking. People were baiting you. It was quiet.
From a stadium standpoint, how was the stadium? Because this, the Black Roomba, as some like to call it the Death Star, it's got a nice Black Roomba vibe to it as well. But
the design behind it is crazy. I mean, it's like I've been to Cowboy Stadium, I've been to Levi Stadium, I've been to different ones. I don't think it's better than Cowboy Stadium. I mean, Cowboy Stadium is still 20,000 people could, more can fit in there. But I'm telling you, man, I don't know. It was great. You walk in, there was so much space.
Yeah.
You could tell it was probably one of their first events. They weren't very organized. They never really are. When a Mexican national team comes, they don't know what they're doing. The security they're never used to that. Yeah, it's gonna be sick. There's no bad seats. There are no bad seats. I mean, we sat in the third level, which in any stadium usually that's pretty bad. But there was a fourth level and above us, and like, dude, we saw everything. You can, because it's the field is so below ground level that you're kind of like two sections. Like I think it's the second section is where like the street. I mean, sorry, like, ground level.
Yeah.
If you're third, you're kind of like just a little bit above, and you kind of feel like you're seeing everything. It was amazing. The stadium, top class for sure.
Food prices, how were they? Were they pretty average? They looked a little below average, actually. They look pretty cheap for food prices.
I bought a hot dog for $3.
Yeah, for people who don't know, I work for a franchise in sports. so I know kind of the food prices and stuff. And everybody goes to games, so everybody definitely knows how it is at a stadium. I saw a picture. I forget who it is. One of the prominent writers for soccer, posted the concession prices, and they look pretty good. I
Bro,
like, for someone who
three
goes to
dollars.
stadiums
Yeah,
for a job and constantly like looks at them. These look pretty good.
it was definitely cheaper than going to a USL game here in Sacramento. I mean, no lie. So I was like, we were shocked. I don't
Yeah,
remember paying. I don't remember paying for a lot of things. I don't remember what the prices were because we were just swiping the cards and no one was really paying
yeah,
attention when
yeah.
you say four of this, four of this. But I do remember one time the hot dogs, we grabbed them and the lady was like $3, and I was like, what? And like I was kind of shocked. Like I've never paid $3 for a hot dog.
Good
It was
prices.
too cheap.
How many days were you in Vegas?
Enough. I went for
Yeah,
3 days. 3 days.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. 3 days is about
3 days was, yeah, one day was too much. Yeah. But
Yeah, yeah.
food prices were cool. Like I said, the food selection was okay. They obviously had adult beverages. That was pretty cool because they had like this whole like these like fridges. It looked like a grocery store. You open up the glass doors and grab what you wanted, like your cans. So that was like kind of like the cool thing, and they'd have that here at Sacramento too. But it's pretty cool. Like there's a little different vibe to it. Domes are always amazing, right? Because you're indoor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, it was cool. There's a little things I could criticize the event about, but as far as the stadium, it was dope.
Yeah, it's a city like Vegas, which is so unique to the rest of the country.
World.
Yeah, world. Yeah, world. You talk about there wasn't a lot of atmosphere around. I think, it is such a tourist destination, and people, if you go with your group, it's such a place where you can definitely just the night before or the morning of just really do your own thing, because the city kind of entraps you and wants you to do that. Then I
Yeah.
can totally see how, as you said, there wasn't this huge like vibe of a larger community at stake where people were doing stuff, because there's so much to do with just the people that you're with, that it's so easy to just kind of get like, yo, like we can do our own thing this night, and there's so much things to do, whatever your vice or enjoyment is to be. It doesn't have to be a vice you can do in Vegas. Whether it's chilling by the pool, whether it's slots, some sports game, whatever you want. Or
Yeah, you can stay in your hotel and never leave. So I mean,
yeah,
I guess that's the thing. Like you said, like you go to a city like you go to the Bay Area, I've been to Vancouver, you go to Mexico. You can't do anything in your hotel room, so people are trying to find where are the people at.
yes.
And here, like you said, like if you roll up to some, doesn't even matter what hotel it is, you probably don't have to leave. You're gonna eat there, you're
Yeah,
gonna play there, you're gonna swim there, and then you're getting rested up, and because it's gonna be a long day. And a lot of people that I talked to were flying in that morning anyways. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
many people, LA is only 4 hours away, whatever. So people were just saying, I'm gonna just commute over.
Yeah, incredible. Such a, it's in the middle of the desert, but it's in the middle of the desert around all these, so many cities, and so many cities just have a quick 2-hour flight, whether it's Portland, the Bay, you just go down the West Coast, Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, you can drive Denver. It's all kind of in the middle of that hub. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a place where so much of the West can.
Yeah, so I think they were just rolling up day up. They're rolling up. They
You
were
roll
rolling
day
up
of,
day
yeah.
up. Yep.
If you're
Yeah.
driving, you roll up day of, you go and spend the night, and then you come back the next day. So,
Yeah.
whether you're driving or whether you're flying, you know what I mean? And it's, yeah. So
It was sick. Like I said, I went for knowing it was gonna be Mexico US. I love those games, but also, I wanted to see the stadium, and I like to go to stadiums when they first open up, and so I got to see that one, and I can knock that one off my list because I'm not going to a Raider game,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I have that checked off already.
All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So, 10 out of a ranking of 10 suitcases, what's your ranking for Vegas?
My suitcases?
How many suitcases would you rank it out of 10?
Oh, out of 10, man. I
Your
think
trip, not counting the game, your trip.
nine. I mean, Vegas is
Nine
Vegas.
suitcases out of 10. There you go, people. The Guilty Travel
Yeah,
ranking is in.
yeah.
9 suitcase emojis. Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah.
And, all right. And so now we move on the field. Mexico 0, USA 1, a devastating loss in the 117th minute in a game. I mean, where do you want to begin with this game? You saw it live, or you saw it in person. I watched it on TV. So many ways we can go with this, but second defeat to a final to the United States in a matter of 2 months, both in extra time, both off of set pieces. I guess, how are you feeling? Where are we at now? A couple days after we've recuperated, we're not, the emotion might still be there, but the frantic hot take of it is now gone. We've now settled a little bit. Where are we at now? Where are we feeling a couple days after this defeat?
I'm a little more level-headed now, but I think I don't know. I don't even want to watch the replay. It's kind of like, oh, I think I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. There's no feedback anymore. You know, I'm the kind of guy, I don't know about you, but when my team loses, I don't watch replays ever. Like, I don't even want to see it pop up on YouTube ever again. But no. I didn't see. I kind of just saw as the minutes were going by that it was going to be trouble because Mexico didn't have an answer on the bench. We talked about the bench was so thin, and Tata didn't even like the bench that he brought because he brought Pizarro in out of shape and started giving him playing time over guys that he's already had there. So I don't think Tata was convinced either of the guys he had on the bench either. So like it was kind of like these starters better do something or we're in trouble. And I also think, I mean, we're making excuses, but like going into the tournament, his plan was to have Chucky Lozano. And so we've never found the sub for that because there's no sub for him. Right. And so then, like, okay, now we're just moving players around. They have to play a little bit differently. And you just saw, like, against the Canada team where it's like, yeah, we're better than the Canada, but we're not scoring a goal. And we are one mistake away from losing the game. So at the Canada game was just like that. And then the US game was literally like that. But I really feel like US played bad. I don't think they played good. I mean, I was around US fans. My buddy was telling me too. He's like, dude, they didn't play to win. They were just playing not to lose. It was very, like you said, very Bruce Arena like, but yeah, I mean, they took a page out of their book and they used it against us again. And Mexico just, like I said, had no answers, man. I didn't see, like, I mean, I didn't get to see the replays, and you were at home, so you got to see replays. We got to see no replays, right, at all, not even on good plays or anything like that. So I remember Funes Mori, he rushed one of the shots where he got it off the cross and he could have stopped it and just tapped it in. He rushed it and just kicked it. I know Orbelín Pineda also, like, right in front of the keeper, like, plays it off to the side. So just a bunch of different plays that I saw, like, live, but I was like, come on, man. And I think as time went on, US is like, bro, let's just hold on. And we'll play to that one free kick. And if they don't score on that free kick, then we go to PKs because US wasn't creating opportunities that much, so.
Yeah, so you mentioned you're watching it live, no replays whatsoever. Watching it from home, I thought Mexico off the front foot was better. I think, I'm not here to make excuses for Mexico, but there was a handball early on where
on the ground, right? He's on the ground.
Yeah, no, the one on the ground. Oh. They've decided they're not going to call those handballs anymore because you're defending. Because as a defensive stance, you're kind of defending yourself. This one was earlier. I believe it was George Bello who he has his arm in a chicken wing and it goes off for a corner. Mm-hmm. That one for me seemed like a handball. There's another one later where hits Roland in the hand in the box. That one's not a PK because he has his hand down the side. But for me, the refs looked like they were scared to like. So I made this call a couple times. There's not a point of having VAR if people don't know how to use VAR. There's not a point of giving people, you can't give a baby a keys to a car and expect him to drive because the car is useless because the baby doesn't know how to use a car. There's not point of having VAR and using VAR if the refs aren't properly trained, don't know what to do it, don't know how to do it. And I think you've seen this all throughout CONCACAF where US CONCACAF kind of gets itself in a problem when US plays Mexico because, besides probably having the two best teams, they're probably the two best trained refs in the area as well. And now they can't use those refs because it's a conflict of interest. So now you're having these probably under trained refs put in position to have to call the most high intensity game in the region. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mix well. For your point, Orbelín had some few chances in the beginning of the second half that he not made the best out of. Fujimori's had a few. I mean, let's give credit to Turner. Turner was fantastic in goal for the United States all throughout the tournament. You pointed to something that after I reflected on both this game and the game earlier from 2 months ago, Nations League Finals. This Greg Bullhalter has his team playing a Bruce Arena style where he's just doing it with better players, which is great for him. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from the U.S. team because they're the ones who won it. But both in this game and in the Nations League Finals, Mexico were the better team. They created more shots. Right. They had more passes. They had more possession. They got fouled more. all these different things, and you see it when you watch the game. They weren't converting chances. They in the Nations League finals, there were free kicks that did them. In this one, it was a free kick, one that looked offsides the way the Moreno goal was offsides a couple
No, it
months
was the
ago.
exact same one. It was the exact same one with the hand across the line. It's the exact same thing.
The shoulder across the line kind of a thing, and it's.
How do you not call it though in double overtime? Just and then we're not saying we lost because of the refs. No one is saying that. But what I'm saying is there are certain calls you have to review. Like you said, what's the point of having a VAR if you're not going to review a last second goal in a double overtime game where there's been no goals? At least look at it again real quick. If you see a hand or a pinky, that has to be offsides according to the rule.
Shoulder, yeah. So yeah, and this doesn't take anything away from the United States, because they obviously what they did all this game, they've done all tournament where they sat back, or they, their defensive shape, they're hold on. You have Turner playing great in goal for them, which fantastic for him. But they're not playing an aesthetically pleasing style. And it was in this tournament that wasn't aesthetically pleasing. In the Nations League, they won in an 89th minute header against Honduras, and they were a minute away from going to PKs, and like in PKs, anything can happen. They, here it was a 117th minute goal that did them in. So, when I say they're playing Bruce Arena style game, that doesn't mean this game where, on paper they were the less talented team. This was over both all summer where I make this comment. From what I've seen, both the games against Switzerland, Honduras, against Mexico, with that set of group, their most talented set of group, and then this players as well. It is Greg Berhalter has them playing tough and are making them hard to beat, but it's not aesthetically pleasing, and it's not when they're crowned the best generation ever by a lot of people, or like the most talented players the U.S. has, and then they start naming off where they play: Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus, all these teams. I expect more from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint than Bruce Arena updated in 2021, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that, if someone's a U.S. fan and is like excited about the way it's played, then go ahead. You can have that. But I think that's, they got to have some kind of they got to have some kind of self-criticism and sit back and be like, look, we're not playing good soccer. We squeak by against, even Haiti, right? We squeak by against Haiti. We squeak by against Canada, against Jamaica. The same way, right? Jamaica, they scored a goal last minute too, and Jamaica had the ball the most of the time. So I think there are a lot of factors playing to it. It is a soccer game. Anyone could win any game, and that's why we go watch it. That's why we like it. I think
winning solves everything too. So
and winning does solve everything, but I think you also learn more from losing. So I think this is. I'm not saying I wanted to lose, but I also think things need to be shaken up. We do know the roster is split up right now, but like I felt like the way Salcedo's been acting these last couple of games, like I don't know what's going on in the interior of the team. If Tata's just calling guys because he has no one else right now.
Last week I tried to defend the man. I thought it was going to be a one-off, but he just looks. He reminds me of somebody who like you played when they were 18, and they had all the skill and they looked like they were going to be great. They might have not reached that potential, and now they're just playing like fake Sergio Ramos style soccer at in the indoor league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the co-ed league.
And like that, that's what I'm getting from Salcedo. And
it just shows like the lack of because I defend him athletically. I don't think he's that bad of a player. I think he is better than a lot of guys that we do call up. I also do think he does give us a good chance of playing when he's playing. But this last week, he was on something. And then, I don't know if you saw, the assistant coach was yelling at him too on the bench before the game. Yeah. And like you said, if you get subbed in and subbed out in the same game as a defender, holy moly. So I really think the roster was kind of and I think maybe this is probably, I don't know, people, when Mexico loses, I think the only good thing that comes up when Mexico loses is that everybody tries to blame every single thing and tries to go so deep into well, it's because we have so many players in the league. Okay, dude, it had nothing to do with today. We lost 1-0. It had nothing to do with the league.
I saw Corona get a lot of flack because they say he wasn't playing up to level. For me, I think from game one, he was getting the crap beat out of him. And every game, he was getting the crap kicked out of him. And it's been 3 weeks of that. I think that catches up to you, man. I really do. I think wants to take players on, he's also getting stepped on. He's getting kicked. This
No, I get it, but we do expect him
isn't-
to create one, and
this isn't physical. There's a difference between like physicality where a guy's getting into you and just like getting the shit kicked out of you. You know what I mean? And in Europe, they'll let physicality go, but they won't let the kicking go. That will get fixed pretty quickly. Here, again, you're having refs that aren't up to the level, and there's so much inconsistency, and you just see. I think for him, he was physically and mentally drained by like the beating he took for like these 3 months, and we also have to there's so much talk about mental in sports in general about mental health and what these players go through and the tightrope they walk. I think it's talked a lot more in American culture than it is in Mexican culture. But Jonathan Dos Santos' father passed away last week in a week. You know what I mean? He has not had the proper time to grieve. In the most like simplest ways. One, he's separated from his family because he's with these guys.
Yeah.
These guys have built bonds. They're friends. Even if they're not like good friends, some of them, they're still spending so much. They've spent so much time together this summer. You see somebody that you've spent so much intimate time with in a short amount of time, and you're watching them have to grieve, have to go through something so powerful as losing a parent. It's going to affect the group. You know what I mean? Like, he has not had proper time to go through it. You as your teammate, you as a teammate, you as a person are seeing somebody that you spend so much time with struggle with this. It's going to affect you too. You know what I mean? This is something that I don't think has really been brought up, and that's not the excuse for them to lose. But when we talk about mental health of these athletes and what they go through, I think that's a huge thing that they have to deal with this last week. You saw it when they scored against Canada. They all surrounded him. You saw after the game, his club teammate largely went up to him, and it wasn't about that. Was nothing to do with sports. That was all about him comforting him because he spent so much time with him in LA with the club team. He knows him personally, and that was purely friendship hug of them crying out together. You know what I mean? So this is something that they've had to deal with as a group, him as a person, and I think that's something that's been kind of overlooked this week.
I think if the team was playing better, I think he would have went home. I honestly felt like he probably felt like he needed. I mean, big shout outs to him for staying, right? Because I thought he was going to fly back or something. The simple, like you said, simple comfort of just him having his brother Gio and his other brother. What's the other brother name? Edson or yeah. So like just I don't know, just those simple things of being around your family. Like I don't know, I just felt like he stuck it up. He stayed. Hopefully he gets some time to go home now and obviously be with his family. But yeah, that was rough, man, on the team. Like we're just, obviously we're pickpocketing little things. At the end of the day, Mexico still, with all that said, with the players they had in the field, I mean, there's players on the Mexican team that are better by far than any player on the other team. And so you're kind of just looking and shaking your head like, what are you doing? But it was just the cohesion of everything. Like I felt like Salcedo, his inability to play with the group. And I think, honestly, he probably has some issues with Tata, and Tata's probably going to have to address it with him. And then Moreno can't last the full game anymore, which we just keep seeing it. Like his age, him not playing with his club this whole year. I mean, it's hopefully he gets back into that form with Monterrey, and just different like things like that. I mean, we could pinpoint even little mistakes like Talavera has to come out on that free kick. As a keeper, you can't stay in your goal on inside the 6 like it's going to be a goal. You have to come out even if you're punching and you miss. It's better than just staying there and getting scored on. So there's a little bit of I think Edson Alvarez played the best, right? I think by far. I don't know how they gave best player to Hector Herrera. I think the best player was Edson Alvarez on the whole.
I think Herrera was the best player. I think both of them were gassed. I think both of them were absolutely gassed.
Okay. If you tie both of them, I think Edson showed a level, and I know it's against CONCACAF, but I know he's already been doing it. But I don't know. I just saw like Edson literally is maturing. Like he's already like in his prime right now.
Yeah. I think they both were Mexico's most consistent players.
And they're gassed. They were tired.
They were both absolutely gassed, man.
Against Canada and against El Salvador, they were dying.
Yeah, and Edson came off hurt and was, in the Honduras game, I think. And so yeah, he was also dealing with an injury. They were absolutely gassed by the end of it.
Because the bench is so weak. Like the group, bench that brought was so weak, man.
You finished with Osvaldo Rodriguez, with Sepulveda, Alan Pulido, Pizarro. Those are four of the subs you make. You know what I mean? And Guti came in, but I thought when Guti came in, the team were kind of lost at that point. Mexico had gone almost, over 70 minutes without making a sub. That wasn't the Moreno sub, and the team was looking a little lost. I think that has to go on coaching. You know what I mean? Because we saw it in the El Salvador game, we saw it against Canada, and we saw it here. That after about the 55th minute, Mexico struggled to hold the ball, half contain of the ball. You've seen Tata Martinez not sub or hold on to subs very late, and all these I think these kind of things accumulate where he's not making the sub. And when Guti came in, the game kind of settled down a little bit more for Mexico. They were having more of the ball. They were just having that extra split second where they were just able to be slightly more aggressive or slightly just keep it, and it wasn't so frantic. But Tata doesn't make subs quick enough, and from what I've seen this tournament, and he's not making proper adjustments where
he doesn't adjust. He doesn't adjust. No, he doesn't adjust.
Where the coaches on the other team, because it happened in 3 of these games, they're doing something to where Mexico has a good first half. The second half, something's not going right, and Tata's not making the proper adjustments. He's not seeing something.
Yeah, it's like that. It's almost like that does. He literally this is all I've seen. He subs man for man, doesn't change anything around. He's gonna go the same formation the whole time. And number 2, he expects players to make those individual plays. Like, hey, you do it. You know what I mean? Tecatito, you make that play, or Chucky, run down the line and you make that play, or Linus, go in and just make something happen. It's not like it's something he systematically created for them to do. I think Mexico played way better in the Nations League Cup against US's best roster. I think Mexico played a better game. And then on this one, I think Mexico was a better team, by names and guys with experience. They should have won the game. But they didn't play better like they did against, that First Nation League's game. And I think just because of that whole losing that game and some kind of underlying pressure, that was forced to just say, hey, man, we're going to have to try to win this Copa Oro thing. But then again, I also feel like if you don't call these guys and you have your other best 23 or 20 in Japan, Ivan, who else are they going to call? Right? You're going to be calling a whole group that we probably don't even know their names, so I don't think you kind of have to take this group to Copa Oro.
Yeah, and then you count the guys who are hurt or aren't playing or got called up by their club. Guardado was out, couldn't play. Arteaga was in Belgium, and Raúl Jimenez hurt, now coming back and everything like that.
Yeah,
what's wild enough? Who actually I thought were 2 of Mexico's better players actually.
Chaka.
And Gallardo. I thought.
Cool.
Gallardo got up the line, and he was very dangerous, and he was really penetrating them, especially early on. Was there was some passing missing in the final third once in the box, but they're pretty aggressive. And
which kind of bothered me because he played with Funes Mori every weekend, so it's like, bro, like why do you think you guys are both there? Like you come down the line and you find him, like you play with each other every weekend, and you play. I didn't understand how they didn't make those connections that they could have.
Yeah.
So.
So now, it doesn't sound like they're going to change. They're going to get Tata out. Some people wanted his head for losing this twice in a row, losing 2 finals in a row. I think the thing that the losing of it, the finals kind of hurts, but I think what hurts me the most is you see how much the USA has jumped in the FIFA rankings by winning these 2 finals. And I just think about where would Mexico now be if they would have won at least one of these finals.
Right. No, but it's okay. Hey, sometimes you got to put your feet back on the floor. At the end of the day, we know we're not a top 10 team in the world. Like we know we're not.
Purely at the World Cup when you have an opportunity to finish in that top 7.
I know, but who cares?
Group, what I mean? That's what I think about. Because if you're not,
I get it, and I know that was like a thing. Let's avoid them, but who cares, man? We've shown it. They've shown it in all levels: 17s, 20s, World Cup, 23s. Put a European team in there, put a South American team in there, and Mexico's still going to get in the top 2. They're going to find a way to get through. So let's just do it.
Just true. The one time they were ahead of group, they tied Angola. So I
told you that. We tied Angola 0-0. We squeaked by Iran. Okay. And then we lost to Portugal. And we were top series. So at the same time, I'm not trying to put all set in the world. We both know that US and Mexico are not top 10 teams in the world. It doesn't matter what the FIFA rankings say. We know there's points. that are based on that. And a lot of European teams will tell you, like, are you serious? Or even South American teams like, come on, bro. Right. So, it is okay. It's not the end of the world. I don't think it's something that we don't want. I think it would have been cool to have, but I think I like Mexico to have a challenge. Like in the Olympics, hey, they played France and everyone's tripping out. We killed them, right? Hey, we're gonna have to play Korea. They beat everybody by 6 goals, scored 6 on them. Like, let's just go. Hey, Brazil, they look so dope. They had to take us to PKs too. So I don't know. As a Mexican fan, I want Mexico to play the best teams all the time and see what can happen. I don't know. That's just me.
All right, so you just made a good transition point. Our second topic today is the Olympic team. Before we go there, final thoughts on the Gold Cup and where we are. Next week, I think I'll give us both a homework assignment. Let's do our depth charts, our 23s. You have yours, I have mine.
Yeah.
We can think about what Tata has. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be ours. Yours is going to be different. Mine's going to be different, and his is going to be different.
Yeah, I think Faitelson, which I follow him just for the comedy, but Faitelson said it best. Like, Tata Martino wasn't hired to win Copa Oro. So I mean, we're not trying to like, now just let it go because we didn't win it. But at the end of the day, let's say he wins Copa Oro, right? I mean, what do we think? We're going to win the World Cup because we win Copa Oro? I mean, it is a tournament that we should win every single time. But Tata Martino was brought to go to the 5th game in the World Cup to get to that next level. So I think he also tried some players out. I think hopefully he could open his eyes. So my last thoughts right here are like, there's some guys that don't belong here anymore, or they really need to show some improvement before you call them back. And I talked to my buddy, and I think I also agree that Mexico beats US on the road in the World Cup qualifier. I mean, this makes up for all this stuff. To be honest, I think that'll be a sweeter result and worth more. And I think Mexico's going to go in there and play hard in the World Cup qualifier. And also, before we wrap that one up, my wife called me about a minute after the game as we're walking out, and she just let me know that was my last game I'm going to. So I really don't know how to justify myself going to any more Mexico games, just spending money to go to that and not get a result. So it's going to be a little while for me to go back. It takes me a couple of years to kind of regain that, I don't know, that will to go.
So here we are. We are little under a month from Mexico's first World Cup qualifying game, September 2nd. They play September 2nd, September 5th, September 8th to kick off World Cup qualifying. So we'll get a roster in about 3 weeks. It doesn't sound like Chucky will be there, coming from reports from Italy that he hasn't really been set to train yet. Guardado has come back and started getting minutes with Betis. You have Raul Jimenez, who just scored his first goal and getting minutes little by little with Wolves. We'll see. They start the season on the 14th, officially at the EPL. We'll see where he's at with starting. But, and I think this is something we can talk about next week about when we talk about our 23, what are we bringing? What are we doing for the first? Our 23 roster will essentially be, who are you taking? Who am I taking? If we're in Tata's shoes to kick off this World Cup qualifying, because that's only a couple weeks now, really only a couple weeks away. And from what we saw with this Gold Cup, it's going to be intense. It's going to be really good games. I think we saw a lot of quality from everybody here for this. I think USA, again, not taking anything away from their wins. I'm still calling it Bruce Arena ball where, in Bruce Arena's time, they were hard to beat. It wasn't an easy match, but the style is there.
You're talking about the first time around, right? Not the second time.
Yeah. I think it's going to set them up for, interesting games for the U.S. looking forward against El Salvador. I think they're going to be riding hot with these 2 wins. Can they come back down to earth? And now, not playing the U.S., can they go to places like El Salvador? Can they go to places like San Jose? Can they go to places like, like that? Can they go to Honduras? Can they get results there? That'll be interesting to see, because it's going to be completely different for this squad, for players like that.
I think for all the teams, I think also like a team like Canada who showed very well, they're also going to have to fly to Honduras. They're also going to have to fly to Costa Rica. I mean, a lot of these teams, like even Costa Rica that we're counting out, they're going to regroup. They're going to bounce back. They're going to play a better World Cup qualifier. I think they're not going to bow out so soon, so it's going to be tough. But I do expect like these guys that are older, like you said, these names, Guardado, these guys that were kind of like worried about injuries. I'm hoping that Tata gives younger guys a chance. And with the 3 game little cycles, I hope he reviews every single time. It doesn't just continue to call the same list because he's used to them. You know what I mean? Like, I hope he kind of goes like, hey, we're playing Panama or we're playing, Jamaica. We need this. And then the next time we play someone, he changes it up. I hope he gets to that point. He doesn't tire out the guys that are coming from Europe all the time. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think for me, I think you got to just go with the people you trust and put them in the best position to get results. And because the games are gonna come, they're gonna be 3 in 7 days, three games in 6 days. You know what I mean? 3 and 7 game. From those 23, those are the ones you have to rotate, but trust them. And he probably won't incorporate too much difference, but you got to put him in from those 23, put the best in each game, what you can do, and try to qualify as quick as possible. And then once you get that done, and once you qualify for the World Cup, then you can start, I think, changing things, I think. But for most important for him is let's get the maximum possible numbers as quick as possible and get top 3 as quick as possible. And from there, now you move forward.
Yeah, I think in those first 2 rounds, right? September, October, you got 6 games. That's 18 points.
By the end of November, you have 8, and now you're over halfway done.
Yeah, so I think even with September, October, that's going to give you, that's 18 points. You want Mexico to be 14, 14, 15 points, and that way, like you said, now you play US, Canada on that. That's going to be one of the, tougher ones, but now it's only 2 games at a time, a couple times. So, you want to get to February. I would say almost clinched. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of these teams kind of go against each other, where they're getting points off one another, and see if they kind of cannibalize themselves. And which one of these teams are the ones that are kind of creeping up from the mountain from the rest of them. Because we've talked about this plenty of times. Even though maybe Honduras and Costa Rica might be on the downhill, and these U.S. or in Canada and Jamaica might be on the uphill. Is their downhill past their uphill, or where are they in these things? You know what I mean?
This is where you need your local guys to step in, though. Like every team, like US, Canada, all these guys, they need their local guys to also be ready, because they're the ones that are not going to take all this like beating from the travel. Like, I know Canada's waiting for Alfonso Davies, but how much mileage is he going to put on by the time he comes back and forth, right? Because he's expected to play every single day in Bayern Munich, right? And then he has to fly in, fly back. So like, you need your local guys that are playing MLS, that are playing Liga MX, that are playing the Costa Rican League, like those guys that are like a top level playing healthy, because you're going to expect a lot from them, because the guys flying in and out, they can't give you everything. It's too much.
I mean, it's a lot going, whether you're going from Tennessee to San Pedro Sula to, you're going to Central America in this heat. And then you have to go back, and then you're playing in Cincinnati, or you go to Mexico City in the elevation. Then you got to go to Kingston. You got to, go to Edmonton, and then you got to go to San Jose. That's a lot of travel. That's a lot of change in temperature. That's a lot of change in climate, change in elevation. All these little things that make actually why it's, I think Alexi Lalas is a perfect poster boy to just kind of make fun of and throw darts at. But he makes a good point when he talks about qualifying CONCACAF, where all these little things of the travel, the distances, the differences in elevation and climate and all these things. He makes a good point when he says that's not easy. That's hard.
No, and I think there's 2 examples that could prove that to you. One was USA not qualifying, right? So you can ask them how hard that is, right? Because they lost home games, and then after that, guess what? They couldn't get on the road. The other example of that was Mexico almost not qualifying last time, right? Where you have all this golden generation of players that a lot of them have already exited now, but the golden generation of players that were coming in from Europe with these big clubs that we were expecting to just come in and just go beat Honduras, they were struggling because what? The time difference, the mileage on their bodies. Okay. So at the end of the day, like, we're not trying to justify, oh, you can't beat these teams, but like a team like Honduras that has most of their players in the MLS or in Honduras, and they just have to travel to, let's say Costa Rica, that's a short little flight. They're going to do better. They're going to do very good. So I think that's where you need your home base players to really step up. That's what I'm talking about. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just keep it going. We'll move to Japan. I stayed up because 1 a.m. is not that bad for me, but I stayed up. Mexico loses to PKs to Brazil. I mean, both, if you want to talk about gassed, both teams looked absolutely gassed in this game. Brazil, the better team, I thought, created more chances. Second half, pretty sloppy, but I thought that helped in Mexico's advantage. Mexico did create some good counterattacks. There were opportunities for them to have a chance to score a goal. Memo Ochoa was great in goal again for Mexico against Brazil. And it came down to shots from the spot. And Brazil took it. What do you think? What were your thoughts now of the Olympic team?
Man, I've seen that movie before too many times. Just okay. So I didn't stay up. I got home that night and I said, you know what? I was already still pissed off from Copa Oro. I said, I'm not giving them more of my time. So I didn't stay up, but I got up and watched my replay without anyone telling me. You know, it was fresh to me. And the second I saw Ochoa miss the first PK, like he almost got it, I was like, we lost PK. Like, because he needed, I don't know, to me, it's like you need that one. I mean, I'm not blaming him. He did a great save, almost did a great save. It's like, dang. And then I saw Mudo Aguirre shoot it, and I was like, oh, we lost. Like, there's no way. Like, who does that? Like, just goes in there and taps it in. So I think the PKs, it's a coin toss, man. I mean, Mexico's won a couple of times in PKs, but historically, they have a history of losing in PKs. And you know,
I saw someone posted this. Unfortunately, I don't remember who, but they said in the last like 20 shootouts from U17, U20, Olympic, Gold Cup, World Cup, all these things, Mexico's 10-10. So they've won 10, they've lost 10. So, you know,
and I think if you lose to Brazil, who, like you said, was playing better than you, who was a nice roster too, and you lose PKs, it's not a big deal. I think it hurts when you like lose to Bulgaria in the World Cup, or you lose to a team that you should have been beating. You know, I think they lost at home, in the '86 World Cup, right? PKs, I think too. So you know, you have these like, I guess these moments like when you lose to a team that you should be in the game, then that hurts. So Brazil deserved to win, and you know, go ahead, they win, they make the PKs, and I don't feel bad. I think it is what it is, man. I mean, I think when you get to the semifinals in any tournament, I think you've already kind of hit where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you know, sports is, you know, the sport is so funny. The way we react to sports are so funny. You know what I mean? Because essentially, USA was Olympic Mexico, or vice versa, and Mexico in the Gold Cup was Brazil in a way. And we see that, and we have so much pride, and we're like, you know, okay, we lost, whatever, into PKs to Brazil, but and in there it's a 50-50 crapshoot, whatever you want to say. But USA was almost like the Mexico Olympic team in that situation, and no one's killing Brazil for just winning in PKs or for not getting the job done in extra time against Mexico. You know what I mean? And you know, the smallest of margins are what separates somebody from criticizing the Mexican national team to losing the United States to Brazil barely beating a Mexican team with almost all Liga MX players or all Liga. You know what I mean?
But then Mexico did the same thing that like Danny Alves said. You know, Mexico beat them in the Olympics with the better roster. Yeah. Brazil had like $100 million roster, and Mexico had like the cheapest roster ever.
I'm not trying. It's just funny how like these small little margins and these things.
But I think it's who you lose to. Like I think, let's say for example, Copa Oro. Let's say that was Copa America, and Mexico loses to, like you said, it depends who they're losing to. They lose to Colombia, they lose to whatever. You know, double overtime, we kind of go home like, man, that was cool. But because it's Copa Oro, and there's this dominance of like last 100 years of Mexico just winning all the time, most of the time, Mexico just doesn't like slipping up at any moment. And I heard this guy in the elevator, he's like, oh, it's okay, man. U.S. is a little brother. We got to let him win once in a while. I was like, no, nobody wants to lose to a little brother. You know, so I think it's like U.S. trying to close the gap, and Mexico just saying like, hold on, we're still trying to be, you know, number one here. So I think that's why it hurts. It doesn't matter if U.S. beats us 3-0 or if U.S. wins in PKs, or it doesn't matter. I think the fact that U.S. won, that was a big deal, you know, because that's what it is. It's just who they lost to. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. But
because if Brazil goes to PKs against New Zealand, or if they go to PKs against, I don't know, give me another country, Canada, okay, even US, then they're going to get some hard criticism at home for not, you know, beating that team. But because they know historically Mexico they always find a way to compete with Brazil. You know, Brazil knows that. Brazil doesn't want to play Mexico because they're, you know, Mexico, when they play Brazil, they're like, you know, yeah, Brazil might be faster, might be more dynamic, but Mexico's more organized, you know, when they play. And so I think that kind of closes the gaps for them. And then Mexico, you know, how do you say in English? I don't know, colmillo, but Mexico knows how to play that little, you know, cancheros. They know how to play, you know, that kind of like, I don't know how to say I don't know how to say it, but they got street mind, and they could play, you know, these little mind games with Brazil. So I don't know. It's all right, man.
But you can say that USA knows how to play mind games with Mexico. right?
think
Whatever
I think
what you
I
just
think I
said,
think I
what
think
you
I
just
think
said
they're
about
starting to learn
Mexico
that.
to, what you just said about Mexico to Brazil, you can say from USA to Mexico, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Mexico's getting that criticism. We think the world's over when they lose to US because of all these things, right? And then US say, oh, the gap is closing, and you're like, is it, or has US learned how Mexico can beat them, right? Okay, Mexico might have guys that can create more opportunities, but what we're gonna do is just sit back, and we're gonna just keep sending crosses in until we get one. And like you said, the last 10 years it's worked for the United States, right? It's worked. And um I think it's something that Mexico obviously is not working at. They're not working on these crosses. Maybe Tata's not, he's being out coached. I don't see Tata doing what Juan Carlos Osorio was doing. Like I really feel like Juan Carlos Osorio was being disrespected a lot, but he was actually he was studying the game. You know what I mean? Like this guy studied the game. You know what I mean? And I just like the way he coached the team. I like the way La Volpe coached the team, where they just really studied every little thing about it and went about it. And I think Tata, I don't know, this could be maybe a bad choice. I think it's already starting to turn out to kind of be a bad choice and just kind of keep us afloat to the next World Cup.
Yeah. No, I just want, this was something that I noticed from when the conversation between the two teams and how, all the things we are complimenting the Mexico team of doing against Brazil, you could make similar things about the U.S. to Mexico, but we don't see the connections or the parallels, and it's just a fickle, funny sport that way. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's right, that I'm right or wrong, but these are the things that I'm noticing. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, I think that's the style. Like, hey, you want to, but this, I think there's one difference. I think the one difference between what you said, I think, with that comparison is when Mexico goes to play Brazil, Mexico, I think, wants to beat Brazil. And I think when US plays Mexico, it's not about beating Mexico, and they never outplay Mexico. It's literally like, let's just see what happens. And then, you know, we start, like, I don't know. I don't see I don't see it that. I don't think it matches up all the way. I think Mexico, when they play Brazil, they kind of see like, all right, man, we're gonna have to beat them this way. I don't think Mexico. I mean, when's the last time you've seen a Mexican team sit back, park the bus, and see what happens? I don't think Mexico does that even against Brazil. I think they do try to play them, head to head, and I think that's just the style of play. But as far as the result, yeah, U.S. barely win and they get excited, and Mexico barely loses and we get excited. So I guess there's that parallel. But I think just the style of play and like the way you're playing.
Well, I'm not talking about the style of play. I'm talking about just
result.
And the things that they showed garra, they showed this, they showed huevos, all these things. Well, USA showed that against being undermanned against a Mexican team that was more talented too. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I'm not saying the style is more attractive or anything. But
no, I mean, I think I don't, like I said, I don't think this US team was. I mean, I don't know, man. I guess they just showed it the whole time. Like you said, Berhalter just had that strategy of like, let's just squeak by, and we'll win this way. And maybe they just practice all defense. I don't know. I guess the fans like that. I don't know. That's not my style. So hopefully things change pretty quick.
Not mine either. But so, what players were you impressed with after? They still have a bronze game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might take a break from waking up to watch that bronze game and just watch it later and with my coffee in the morning.
I'm definitely not gonna watch the bronze game. I think I just mentally but yeah. Man, I think a lot of players showed up. I think that's what it is. We're looking for, like, Olympics. We're looking for guys on the rise, yeah. And I think Copa Oro is just kind of like whoever's playing right now. So I think at least for Olympics, we see some guys really like showing what they've been showing maybe the last couple of years, but people don't really see it. Because I think Alexis Vega, I've seen him play like this. He plays for Chivas. I watch every game. He plays like this most of the time. I mean, he's very strong, and against Brazil, you kind of saw he was strong. He was dynamic. He can put a long pass. He has great technique. I mean, he could definitely, Mexico could have definitely used them in Copa Oro. So I think Alexis Vega showed us up. I think Antuna showing that with the national team, he plays just differently. In Chivas, he doesn't do it. I'm not saying he's like a crazy complete player, but he reminds me of Pablo Barrera, or he reminds me of Efrain, Juarez, where, like, these guys are kind of in their moment. They're fast, they're quick, they can get down the line and cross it.
Well, it's funny because Antuna was the worst player in the Nations League finals, and everybody was begging for him to get off like soon.
Right.
And here in the Olympics, he essentially benched Linus or
because he could play longer than Linus. Because Linus, like, I don't know. I kind of was talking about this. I was thinking about this yesterday too. But Linus, I mean, he's the kind of player. No knock on him, but I also could compare him with Tecatito, right? Where you're like, yeah, you're dope, but you're gonna be dope coming in the last 35 minutes, maybe. Like, I don't see you playing 90 minutes doing the same thing where you're like going down and taking guys one-on-one. And then that's a knock on him. He needs to get to that point. And Antuna, I think, could last longer. And maybe Jimmy saw that Antuna could last longer, back up a little more, defend better, and then be able to, counter. So, I mean, yeah, like you said, he did bench him. I also was really impressed by what's their name? Johan Vasquez, which I thought he was been doing good for last season or so. So, 4 or 5 guys, you bring him into the main team, mix some guys around, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, Luis Romo, I thought, also showed his versatility, can do in different positions, kind of plugged in, really helped them in different spots for the most part. I think he's definitely one of those guys that if he's not there, you notice it more than when he is there.
No, he's not. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that's the kind of guy you say, you're like, oh, he's not there. Shoot.
Is there anybody that disappointed you?
Dude, I'm just not an Henry Martin fan, man. He scored 10 goals. I'm not a fan of his. I just don't think it's, but then again, Henry Martin would have helped out this Copa Oro team. Like, these guys would have been better subs than the guys that we had, So I don't know. I don't think I still have a knock, man. I think everyone else did pretty well. Charlie is trying to get back to that player that we expected him to be. He's trying to. I know you were all upset that he got red carded and he was going to be out, but the team stepped up and played without him. So I mean, I was kind of shocked by Esquivel and Loraña. What's his name? Loraña, whatever his name is. But those guys that you always get kind of shocked when there's a guy or two that plays in Necaxa or Juarez. Like, you're like, what? How did he make the national team? And you're always kind of like, oh, he's dope. Or a guy that plays in Querétaro or some kind of player like that. So huge shout out to them. I think they did their job. So it was cool.
Yeah, I will say the player I was probably disappointed the most with, because I expected more from him, was Cesar Montes. I thought gave up
2 PKs,
a dumb foul in the first. These things where he's not quick. He was getting outdone by people quicker than him. He wasn't reading the game properly in like when to make the foul, or he got suckered into a lot of things, a lot of stupid fouls too. And it's one of those things where I was just expecting more from his positioning and fouls, or when you're making what your decision making and when you're doing, you're getting angles at defending, all these little things that add up, and all these little things that over time allow people freaking why does I forget his name?
It was gonna be a lie anyway. You were lying.
Yeah. I mean, to allow these guys to sustain themselves to play long, like Hector Moreno. I don't know.
Hector Moreno, yeah.
But to allow these dudes to sustain themselves over a long period of time, I was expecting more from him, because he was someone that people have been high for a while, and they see him moving to Europe, being all these things, but man, he was getting suckered by a lot of guys.
Yeah, he went to the last Olympics too, so he's had experience in these things. I don't know. I'm just not sold on him either, not yet. But it is a turn of the tide. Mexico is going to start changing the pace a little bit, and you're going to see some new guys. I think once Tata, like you said, can comfortably say that we're close to qualifying or something, I think he's going to start giving more people a chance. And then definitely once the qualification's over, you'll see maybe he starts just getting guys that he wants to bring into camp and just go with it. So you might see some veterans in the fall that we probably like, come on, man, again. But I think it's going to be just to get these points.
Who's been underrated for me this summer? Araujo. Araujo was a little underrated. I just think people just aren't wowed by him. So I think, and they have bad memories of him in past years, 4 or 5 years ago playing for Mexico. But he was going to be a starter the last World Cup until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And I think he's finding back his rhythm. I thought he was the most consistent defender Mexico had all summer.
He definitely has stayed just consistent enough to stay there. He's gonna play. I think, like you said, I think we could both say, okay, he might have shocked us, but I think the one that we're all shaking our head and could be losing their spot is Carlos Salcedo, because we're like, what are you doing?
He's not making those stupid mistakes that Salcedo's making. You know what I mean? He's not doing things like that anymore. He's not doing that stuff anymore. He's not losing the ball. He's not giving away the ball as much anymore either. Yeah. He's not making, dumb fouls the way Montes was, or he's making smarter tackles in places where he can make them. So I thought he was much more consistent, even keel over this.
But what about like if Ryan Alvarez too? Like I know he gave him a chance in that tough game against Trinidad Tobago where the team was shook, but then like that's it. He took it to the tournament and just to, like sit there. I'm kind of shocked at like his lack of growth and maybe what he could have done with the Olympic team maybe instead, because of the age group. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. There's just maybe some guys that I don't know. If Ryan Alvarez has a lot to grow because he could be losing his spot pretty soon. I don't see him being called anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. And I think you were talking about these young guys, and maybe later we'll see them after they qualify. Hector Moreno didn't play that many qualifying games into the 2010 World Cup. He was not, and then he started and showed out like pretty much around the World Cup in 2010. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that with Vasquez.
Yeah. Also, like I mean, don't forget Paul Aguilar made the World Cup team. So I mean, when he was young, so a lot of like, I think it's gonna be
Barrera's another player who didn't do a lot in qualifying,
right? Because it's gonna be because it's a year from now. It's not today, right? So today you need to qualify, but then in a year, I've always said that like that's why Mexico always has a chance. Or any team has a chance because you have a month to prepare. You got your coach. You're gonna get guys that are hot at that moment, so you don't know anything. We don't know what injuries are gonna happen. We don't know who doesn't get playing time anymore because they're on a team. We don't know who gets to go to Europe all of a sudden. So like a lot of things can change from today. That's why you're trying to build this pool. And I think Tata has a really deep pool. I think he has a deeper pool than, the last World Cup cycle. Juan Carlos Osorio didn't have that deep of a pool. He was trying to maybe just go with the golden generation that people were talking about and had to keep calling them. But like Tata has 40 players and there's still some guys in the Mexican league that are just there, almost close to making that jump. So, and we don't know what Macia is going to be doing in Europe. I mean, let's say he scores 5-6 goals. I mean, there's no way you can't start calling him instead of Alan Pulido. So, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, and now we got, I gave us a homework assignment for next week, come up with our roster for the upcoming qualifiers or kind of, see where we're at there.
I am going to say this before we wrap up. I am upset, and I'm always upset about this. That if you talk about this whole summer, not one young goalkeeper was given opportunity at all. And I think that's very bad on the league, on the federation, on like their whole plan. Because the other day I saw Yarbrough playing for the Colorado Rapids. He missed the ball and he got, I don't know if you saw, but I didn't even know Yarbrough played in the MLS. And I didn't even know he was playing anymore. But like Yarbrough was a player like in his moment where he was like coming up. And he's Mexican. He's coming up. And they just always ignored him. So he just took the bait and went with USA. And I just felt like, I'm not saying that we missed out on him because he didn't pan out, but I feel like Mexico is consistently just letting young goalies just like not get the opportunity. And I felt like the Olympics could have been one. I know Ochoa was there, but we talked about, I'd said it before. He's already played that before. He's already played World Cups, like whatever. But then like Copa Oro, all three of your keepers are plus 30. And it's like, what is Orozco doing there on the bench? Like, what is he going to learn? Orozco's been on the bench for many times, Cota's been a goalie. So like, I just felt like, I don't know. I hope that gives a chance to one of these young keepers, man. I want to take at least one of them to the World Cup, at least. Because next time around, all the goalies we're talking about are past their prime. So,
I mean, yeah, I think I heard something that Laud who plays for Santos Laguna, the backup from Tijuana, he might get called up by Lebanon because he had the possibility to do it. So, yeah, we'll see. Any 50-50s before we wrap up?
What about the I kind of have one right here. So it was kind of like last week, but the Mexican softball team, they left their uniforms behind, or supposedly, right? Because there's different stories coming out. What are your thoughts on that? Like on everybody, like first of all, her fellow Olympian, the boxer, she posted the picture to kind of put it out there. Yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
So, straight snitch off the bat. Two, we don't, from what, there's a lot of information that came out, right? The softball players saying, there's pictures of them at the airport where they just have bags and bags and bags and bags of stuff they had to take with them, stuff they had to bring back. This isn't a very well funded program. Two, I heard that they had to pay for their own jerseys out of pocket. So there's a lot of these different things. It wasn't the whole softball team. The other thing, and people, Mexican culture likes to jump on the idea and are happy. Sometimes the worst enemy of a Mexican is a Mexican. they're jumping at this thing for a story or to say, oh, Poncho's this, Poncho's that. And so it's kind of a reflection of some of the negativity and some of the, these things that happen in Mexican culture. That's kind of what I get from it. I wasn't trying to have a knee-jerk reaction to it, and I just definitely wanted to step back and just kind of see everything that panned out. But yeah, that's the way I saw it, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. And now they're people in Mexico are happy to kind of put everyone together and say, oh, see, they're not really Mexican, they're Mexican
Yeah,
American.
that was kind of. I mean, I guess we both could fall on that because we identify ourselves as very Mexican, even though on paper we're not. And so when you see these players being called things, oh, this and that, it's like there wasn't going to be a softball team to begin with, anyways. Okay, softball is as a U.S. sport, and most of the countries, it's even Italy. They're all most of them were using U.S. or college players. So
A day or two before that, they were talking about how proud they were because they're about to play for the bronze medal, how proud they were of this program.
Yeah, I think it was just like you said, and then on top of that, like that whole situation was happening, and the softball girls were in the plane. They were still flying back, so there was no response for a long time. Then once they landed, girls were landing, or ladies were landing with their uniforms on. So I'm like, that didn't even throw that away. They had it on. Like some of them still had it on. So I was like, I don't know. I think the whole thing is a mess. I think it shows how poor the Mexican Olympic Committee is at planning, and then maybe how corrupt it is. We've talked about how bad the Olympics are, but the Mexican Olympic Committee, like they expect results but put no work into it. And you can just tell by all the preparation. You can tell by the few amount of people that actually get to participate in a country that has 125 million people. On top of that, U.S. Americans that can play for Mexico too. So it's just very bad, poor planning. I think it's whatever. Don't call them anything.
Yeah. So for me, it's a VAR check. It's a red card. My 50-50. On women Olympic soccer, U.S. women, I was wrong. I said that they would, if they beat the Netherlands, they make in the gold medal match. Canada proved me wrong. U.S. playing for third, lose. Their fan base is not happy because they expect excellence. But what are your opinions on that? Because I think a lot of things we talked about, where an older group and
the rest of the world's catching up.
Yeah, catching up, flourishing, and
the rest of the country. Okay, first of all, it's. I guess you could almost put that in the same boat as I used to always compare it with U.S. men's basketball, where it's a U.S. sport, right? Now a lot of people play it, but it's a U.S. sport, and so then U.S. men's would just beat everybody. And they take the dream team, everyone gets excited because they beat a bunch of guys that are playing in lower leagues or just amateurs. Okay, then people started catching up. Right. And I'm not saying that they're better, but, Spain could assemble a team with some guys that have experience. And then the same thing could happen with Nigeria or whatever it may be. Okay. Well, soccer, the same thing is happening. The U.S. women's were just so ahead. They were miles ahead of everyone else. Right. You saw only the very most developed countries were playing. Even Mexico didn't even have a women's team for a long time. Right. And then finally, they're not there yet. They're not going to be there yet. But you can see these we talked about European teams have this like blueprint of what they're doing with men's soccer. It's not that hard for them to change it for the women's. And Canada, I mean, Canadians and Americans are the same thing, bro. I mean, it's a very developed country, right? There's only a line that separates them. They speak the same language. Education's there, whatever. The access to sports is there because you don't have to work. In Mexico, we know how machista the country is, or other Latin American countries, or even Asian countries, whatever, African countries, where a woman's not going to play sports because the way the household is run, right? So all these things are starting to kind of like meet up. And I don't think the U.S. dominance is going to be there anymore for the women's soccer. And you're going to see in the next World Cup. I mean, they're not scared of them anymore, man. It's not going to be there.
Yeah. I heard Hope Solo in an interview. She mentioned like maybe the coach was too nice and kind of let the women run too much of it, and what didn't put his foot down enough in making his own rules, because the team has had so much success in the past. And that's kind of something we talked about a little bit, where I said, it kind of looks like it's a select kind of club where not that they're not earning it, but there's not maybe enough rotation or people coming in who have earned a shot to participate in. And Hope Solo kind of pointed something at that. So, I kind of stick with that, and we'll see what happens moving on. Now they have 2 years fully to really prepare and see. Be interesting to see what he does, the head coach, moving forward, and what happens with some of these players who have had. Not only are they marketable, which I think is big for to grow, that it's an element that women's soccer definitely takes note of because of the money that they're trying to earn and get and increase. The marketability is important for them as they try to get equal pay as the men. So having these players who are figures is important for them. Like it is in any other, like it is in any other sport, not specific to women's soccer, because it's important for men's soccer. It's important for Mexican men's soccer. It's important everywhere. So I think that also plays a factor to it. And yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. A lot of people are criticizing them for not preparing properly, having some pretty weak run-ups too.
Well, they played Mexico twice. Like, why are you playing Mexico twice? You can score 4 goals each time. Like, we talked about their competition wasn't there. I know COVID was in the way. We can make all kinds of excuses, travel, but I think also the same thing though. I think as far as because US has so much soccer for women's, like you're not going to tell me that most of those Canadians probably play in the league or they play in these colleges, right? Or they play in the programs that the same US women's play in, just like Mexico does. And you saw a Brazilian girl, like she switched, nationality. So I think like, as far as like soccer is going to be accessible here, but then like you had like you said, a little special club where they're not letting other people in. People are going to just churn, make that phone call home and say, hey, New Zealand, I heard you need a goalkeeper. They're like, where do you play? Oh, I went to Stanford. Boom. So they're going to just be developing players for everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. You're seeing it in England with the Women's Premier League or the Women's Super League. You're seeing it in Spain. Barcelona just went pretty much undefeated in La Liga for the women's, and they're also defending champions. They're the now new Champions League winners. Paris Saint-Germain dethroned Leon. So you're seeing it all over these different parts around.
And
the
don't
world.
forget, Libertadores has a women's, right?
Libertadores now have women.
Don't let Boca get started.
You're seeing it in Mexico as well. You talk about the development countries. That Canada. You can also put Australia and New Zealand in there as well, with these kind of countries that got these English independent countries that got their independence from England, and kind of see they're all kind of very similar in those regards. So, I still think U.S. is there to still be the best, but now that I think it's going to be a little more of a challenge.
I was saying it's going to be a challenge, and
it won't be as easy. And how do you? Yeah, and the question is now, how do you recycle the new generation of talent? And if you don't, I think they could get bit in the butt, but we'll see. But
it's better for the game
study because there's so much to it, right? It's the Title IX advantage that U.S. soccer has the U.S. has given women athletes has helped them in so many levels, and you see in the Olympics too, in general, and all these other sports. But now these other countries are catching up and seeing the importance of women athletes and how it is profitable. Part of it is the money. That's part of the reason why they're doing this now, because they're seeing, okay, women have the same ability to generate money the way men do. Now you're seeing all these other countries finding and trying to catch up to them. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the U.S. women's soccer.
It's better for the sport that way, though. It'll make the World Cup more enjoyable.
Essentially, like, are they going to be stagnant and rest on their laurels that they've gone to this point being the best, or is it going to take something like drastic at a World Cup or an Olympics where maybe like where the expectations aren't met in a more drastic nature than a semifinal loss for them to change? You know what I mean? Is like, are they going to be proactive about it, or is it going to take something to do it? That's what I'm more fascinated to see, because a lot of the issues that affect the U.S. men's soccer from a foundational standpoint of how youth soccer is ran in the United States, it's the same thing in the women's game. It just so happens that the women win.
But it happens that, the difference is that the rest of the world doesn't do that. See, like with men's soccer, like you said, it's a upper middle class sport, whatever. And the rest of the world is not. So you're going to have the better players playing, right? And in the contrast, the women, it is still a middle class, upper class sport, but the rest of the world doesn't even play. So, now they're finally starting to play, it's going to catch up. They're still miles ahead. But, there's some changes to be made. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, that does it for us. This episode of Football Theory. Guti, glad you're back. Glad you survived Vegas.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my throat back.
You still have your house. You didn't bet the house. You didn't lose your house on a couple of parlays. Appreciate that.
I don't gamble.
All right. Better man than me then.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks for checking in. Let's do this.
All right. We'll catch you next week, guys. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Hug your loved ones. Thank you, Guti.
All right, man. Late. It's kind of like what way to put it.
It was especially when they were starting out.